Well, good morning, friends, and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman out here on a rather cold final 2 days of the deer season here in Tennessee. We had a weather front move through here a couple of days ago, and it's turned off rather cool, and that's the reason I'm out here bundled up. But I thought I'd come out here and see if anything would move through the area here and sit in my blind for a while, and if not, I'm going to head over to a tree stand that I've got put up, and I think the deer are going to be coming through there pretty regularly early in the morning into the later hours of the morning, because there's still quite a few white oak acorns on the ground over there. I scouted that again a couple of days ago, and they're still moving through there because I found fresh sign there. But there's a few white oaks here too, and the food's still on the ground. They're still browsing through the leaves looking for food. Now, I've harvested the 2 bucks that I'm allowed here in Tennessee. However, I can still harvest a doe if I want to, and what I'm looking for is about a 100-pound doe just for the freezer, for some meat, and really that's better eaten anyway. So that's what I'm after, is to fill my freezer. This morning I'm hunting with this Marlin 336 chambered in 30-30 Winchester. And what I'm still using, are these Remington Core-Lock bullets, 150 grain. They've done quite well for me this year, and I thought I'd give the 30-30 a good, honest try and put it to use out here in the deer woods this season. And I gotta say, it's done quite well. That big buck that I took back in December is a testimony to how effectively those Core-Lock bullets will perform on big game. It's did quite well. That deer went down fairly fast. He didn't run very far. In fact, I actually saw him go down. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to hunt out of this blind for a little while, and then I'm going to head over to that stand. So come along with me. Well, guys, I've sat here for about, an hour and a half or so, and I saw one big doe with 2 fawns come through here, about 60 yards or so in that direction, and I elected not to take that doe because I really don't like to take a doe that has fawns. I know that's her fawns that are with her, and I want to give those youngsters a good chance of survival into next year. And that big doe, she's like a guardian. She'll watch out for predators and hunters and everything else, and she keeps them together and, kind of keeps watch over them. And there's coyotes and wild dogs and everything running around in the woods, and she helps to avoid all that. Wherever she goes, that's where them young deer are going to follow. And she knows how to survive. I mean, those big nanny does, they're pretty slick. So I like to let them go. I don't want to take them when they have young deer with them. Now there's another big doe that's running around here that has 3 fawns with her, and I've seen her pretty regularly. I've got her on video, and I'll share that with you. Now there's also another big group of does here. There's 2 big does and then 3 yearling does. What I mean by that is 1.5-year-old does from last year, the previous season, and they've got 4 fawns running around with them. So, that's a big family group. And there's one of those does is a big nanny doe. She's the leader, I'm sure. She's the matriarch. And we'll let her go. But if I ever see, 2 or 3 does that are all the same size, pretty good sized does, that's what I'm after. And I just don't like to take a mama doe that's got little ones with it for that reason. So anyway, I'll sit here a little bit longer and then we'll head over to the tree stand. So y'all hang tight. Well, folks, if you don't look, you'll never find out. But checking this tree here, there's still lots of white oak acorns on the ground. As you can see here, they're just under the leaves, and I think these deer come through here and they dig through the leaves and they look for these acorns. So I'm going to cut one open here and see if it's still good. There you can see the meat is still intact, and that's what they're going to be coming in here looking for, feeding on. Well, guys, I got up into my tree stand here fairly quiet. The leaves are still a little bit damp, but that sun's popping out now, so things will dry up shortly. But anyway, I got in here. I didn't spook any deer. I didn't see any white flags, so got up here and got settled in and just sitting here waiting now. See if anything shows up. Visibility is really good, so I think now it's just going to take a little dose of patience and just sit here and wait. So stick with me. I see some movement right here. Yeah, it's a deer. It's a deer. Okay, guys, I think I made a good shot on that deer. We'll take a look here in just a minute. We'll get down, see if we can find any blood. But I think I connected with that deer. It ran off towards my left. And I lost sight of it right up here in these thicket right over here, these thick trees. Let's get down, take a look. Okay guys, looks like that deer ran up through here. There's the first blood. Right there. I think it went up through here. I think that's some blood there. Okay. Well, that deer ran over on my buddy's property, Randy. There's a property marker right there. I'm sure that deer went back that way. Well guys, I don't know if I made a very good shot on that deer because I just saw it take off and go over on that other property, so we're going to give it some time. Let me call my buddy Randy and get over there on his property. See if we can't recover that deer. I'm going to give that deer about an hour and then go back over there. So we'll give him a call and I'll be back with you. Well guys, just got off the phone with my buddy Randy and I told him what happened. And he asked me, he said, was that you that just shot? I said, yeah, I just shot a doe and it ran over onto your property. And he said, well, go look for it. I said, yeah. But anyway, I went up there looking for blood. You know, you saw me do that. And when I found the last drop of blood up there, I saw that, I think it was that deer kind of loping off. You know, it was kind of staggering from side to side. So I'm going to give that deer a little bit of time, let it settle down and expire. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to go get my little dog and put her on the trail because this will be good training for her. And she's just itching to get out anyway. So I'm going to head back to the house, walk up there and wait just a little while, maybe get me a cup of coffee. There's no hurry. The temperature's cool enough so she won't spoil, you know. And see if we can't recover that deer. So I'll be back with you in just a little bit. Okay, my friends, it's been about 45 minutes or so, and I went home and got this little dog. Come up here. You remember this pretty young lady? This is Penny, and we're going to put her on that deer trail. Go back to where I found the blood, and then we'll head in the direction that that deer went. And with some luck, we'll be able to recover that deer. So come along with us. Okay guys, I got up in my stand and I looked over here and I saw a deer over here on my property and it was heading in that direction, and then it got behind those trees right there and I couldn't see it anymore, but then I saw another one and I already had the gun up, and right there is where I took the shot. So let's go over there and see if she can pick up this trail. Come on, girl. All right, girl. See if she picks it up here. She's already smelling something.
you smelling, girl? Hmm? That deer crossed the property line up here. I think it ran up this way. Okay, here's blood right here. Here's some blood right there. Yeah, she's on the trail. Here you go. There's blood. All right, there's blood. Okay. There's blood. Where'd it go, huh? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Undo. Undo. What you did though? There's a deer. She's over there smelling something. Let's see, she found blood over here. Yep, there's blood right there. Blood on the ground. Blood trail here. See, I think you might have found that deer. Yep. There's blood there. Good girl. Good girl, Penny. That's a good girl. Yep, she's right there. This is good training for that little dog. Good girl. Good girl. That's about a 1.5 year old deer. that deer right behind the shoulder. Surprising it went as far as it did. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yeah, come here, girl. Good girl. Yeah, that's not a bad size doe. Now let's see here. Let's flip her over. Yeah, it angled through and came out here, so anyway, it was a lethal hit. You know, if you got a little dog that shows promise for tracking deer, then any chance you get to train that dog and get him out in the field and looking for a deer that's been hit is really good. This deer I thought went back that way, but I could see that she was on the trail and she just started huffing and puffing, you know, when she got her nose on the ground. And that deer actually took a turn and went across that gully. And right before I got to that little gully there, I could see where she'd been smelling. And there was blood on the leaves there, which kind of surprised me. But, you know, count on that nose. It always knows. She trailed that deer, I mean, from up there straight to this spot. That's about 250 yards or so. That deer went further than I thought it would. But either way, you know, we recovered this deer and make some more venison out of it. That's a good girl. And one thing to always remember, you know, whenever your dog finds a deer, always reward them. Even if they don't find them, you know, reward that dog, because she lives for this right here. I mean, she just absolutely goes nuts when she thinks I've shot a deer. When I come home, she's just whining and carrying on. She knows something inside of her. She just knows that I got a deer. I don't know how they sense it, but they sure know it. It's before I even got my hands on the deer, you know. And she just knows that it's time to go out in the woods and go look for a deer. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this deer checked in, and we'll get it field dressed and get it on the meat pole, and we'll get the meat packed away, and we'll have some more venison. Well guys, got this deer back home, and I'll tell you, when I first saw it laying on the ground, I thought it was a small deer, but it's not. This is about a 100-pound doe here, and just exactly what I was looking for to add some more meat to my freezer. The shot, let me show you here. I'll pan down. The shot was right here, actually, where it went in. I think what happened is I had my crosshairs right here. That deer took another step right when I squeezed off, and so the bullet landed right here, just about, 2.5, 3 inches from my point of aim. But you know, that's what happens when you're hunting sometimes, when you're dealing with these critters, because you never know what they're going to do next. But either way, got a pretty good sized doe here. Now that's the second deer that I've harvested this year with this Marlin 30-30. And to be honest with you, even with a hit like that, it came out a little bit far back on the other side. That 150 grain core lock did the job. You know, the deer went down. Now granted, when I found the blood trail, I got up and started looking, and this deer got up and took off. So I backed out of there. You know, I gave this deer some time. I could tell by the way she was running, she was kind of wobbling from side to side. She wasn't going to go far, but I just backed out, didn't push her, and I took that opportunity to get my little dog out and let her track this deer down. And once she got on the trail, I just turned her loose and she went straight to this deer. That's great training for a dog that's showing promise to be a tracking dog. That's probably the 6th deer she's already found since I've had her, and with a little bit more practice, I think she can be right on the money. But she had no trouble at all finding this deer. It ran about 350 yards or so from where I shot the deer, so that was just right for her to follow that trail and lead me right to her. The deer actually went a different direction than what I thought it did from where I last saw it. I thought it was going down towards a gully, but it actually went up, turned to the left, and went across a little ravine there and went over on the other side. And then about 100 yards from that ravine, that's where she found her. So, you know, anytime you get a dog on a deer trail like that and they show interest, then just let them do what they want. You know, they can smell that deer, you can't. And just let them take the lead. And quite often, you know, after they find a few deer, they're well on their way to being a good tracking dog. So anyway, let me go ahead and get this deer field dressed now, get it hung up and quartered, and put on ice. And I'll be back with you in just a moment. Well guys, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the kind of season, deer season that is, that I've had here in my area. And in retrospect, I have to say it's been a really good one. I was able to harvest a decent little 8-pointer with my archery equipment, and then later on in the season I got a nice buck with my rifle, and saw several deer, several good bucks during the muzzleloader season, but I opted to let those deer walk because I thought another year and they'd be some dandy bucks, you know, and hopefully they made it through the season. I'll check my trail cameras to see if maybe they appeared after the season closed, and if so, hopefully we'll have some good sized bucks here again next year. So anyway, you know, if you live in an area where you know there's trophy sized whitetails, then historically that's a good place to hunt. That's one thing I've noticed. You know, if they come through and there's a good number of does that they want to breed, those bucks are going to appear sooner or later. And even after the rifle season opens, people say that these bucks go nocturnal. Well, I don't think so, not really. I think quite often they'll resume activity, breeding activity, during times when the rut, you know, comes back into swing. There's more than one rut. It's not as pronounced later in the season as it is in the early season during the beginning of November, because that's a great time to harvest a good sized deer. But you know, looking back on my hunts here in the past, I've noticed that certain areas just happen to produce good sized deer. And if you know of a place where historically there have been good deer taken, then odds are you'll probably find success there. You know, concentrate on areas where you find rubs and scrapes and you know that deer are moving through, then you should have success if you do everything else right. And finding these areas will give you the confidence to be able to go out in the woods and have that sense of anticipation for success. You know, you need the confidence, and I've talked about it before in videos in the past. You know, if you don't have confidence, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're hunting or fishing or whatever. If you don't have confidence in where you are, your abilities, or your equipment, then, you know, your chances of success go way down. You got to have confidence. And speaking of confidence in your equipment, I knew that this little 30-30 rifle, this little Marlin that I've got here, was a good performer because I've tested it in the past and it'll shoot sub 1-inch groups at 100 yards. I know because I've done it. And the ammunition that I like to rely on are these Remington Core-Lock bullets, just like I mentioned before. You know, they've performed well for me, and it's something I have confidence in. I really like the design of their bullets. You know, they have a very unique design. Now, if you look at this round that I've got here, this is a Remington 150 grain Core-Lock bullet. This cartridge is a 30-30. What I really like about the 30-30 Core-Lock bullets is the design of the jacket. If you look at it close, you know, you've got the exposed lead tip, that soft lead tip, and you've got these segmented sections around the jacket, you know, that aid in uniform expansion. That, coupled with good accuracy, makes for some good ammunition. Both the deer that I shot this year, that bullet went exactly, precisely where I held my crosshairs. And that's great performance. So if you haven't tried Remington Core-Locks in the past, and you get a chance, you know, especially if you have something like a 30-30 or a 35 Remington or whatever. Now, by saying that, I'm just sharing with you what has worked well for me, and I think it would be good advice to give to anyone watching this video. So with that being said, let me go ahead and close out and say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, no matter what your outdoor pursuit happens to be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But also remember this, hit that like button, smash the bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this one will be coming your way. So until next time, y'all get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. I'll be seeing you.